let's be honest, there are a lot of things in life that we want to control and we wish we could gain full control over, and it's in this energy and in this place of force that we actually create way more suffering for ourselves, and more often than not we actually block ourselves off from that in which we're trying to create, or that which we're trying to attract. So on this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 different things that are going to help you really shift out of this place of control and into a place of surrender that's going to allow you to not only feel better in the present moment and show up in a better light, but then also attract and align with the things that you were trying to control in the first place. So it becomes like this game of magic where instead of like force, I have to do it this way, you're just leaning back and watching as it literally unfolds for you. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Kara Michelle and I'm here to help you live your truth. So here's something that totally blew my mind a few years ago when I was studying in India and beginning to learn about mindfulness, beginning to really learn. This was something like, I thought it was so cheesy, but I promise you, if you watch this video till the end, the stuff in here could totally transform your life, should you actually pay attention and apply it in your day-to-day life, okay? Because mindfulness and what we focus on is so important in terms of our quality of life. Literally everything starts up here. So your response to the world, your focus, your perception, the story you're telling yourself is creating your understanding of life, and it's creating your experience. So if you're focused on negatives, if you're focused on all the things you want that you don't have, if you're focused on trying to force and control and make it happen the way you want it to, you're creating a lot of suffering, you're creating a lot of unnecessary pain. So one of the biggest teachings when it comes to mindfulness, you've probably heard this with Eckhart Tolle and a few other people who are in that kind of like surrender. She does like the change me prayers. She's really amazing, all about surrendering, right? Letting go, stepping back. And what is number 1 here is to let go of the ego, because your ego is the force. The ego is what thinks it knows best, and it thinks it knows the way in which everything's going to happen. So whatever you're stressing about right now in your life, take a second, take a deep breath, settle in with it, and look at the story you're telling yourself, because probably right now you've got all these different ideas of like, I need to do this, like these are my steps, this is my plan of attack. If I want to get here, I'm going to have to do all these things, and you're trying to control not only the outcome and control what you're getting to, but you're also trying to control the whole process. Like you're trying to control all the steps onto that ladder. That's not a ladder, but you're trying to control all the steps as you're making your way there. So this keeps you very limited, and this creates the suffering, because what happens when it doesn't go exactly to plan? You beat yourself up. You feel really bad. You feel stressed, angry, insecure. Maybe you have doubt and you start to really think like, oh, I'm no good at this. It's never going to happen, or blah, blah, blah. And you tear yourself down. So the ego is really like setting you up for failure. And if I could draw like a sad face, there we go. Thinking that little emoji of like, So your ego is setting you up for failure because you cannot control everything that's meant to happen, no matter how hard you try, right? Especially right now with everything going on with COVID, this is a huge time to realize that we aren't actually in control. We like to think we are, and we cling to it because we want that safety, that security, that false sense of security where we feel like, oh, we do have everything under control and in our power. But in reality, we don't have control. I know this was one of the biggest things when my brother passed away. Like, all of a sudden, he was gone, and it was an accident, and it was like I realized I had zero control over anything in my life. Because here I had thought all these things, you know, we're gonna grow old together, we're gonna this, we're gonna that, like, oh, I was actually just thinking of him and I was gonna text him, and then when I landed from that plane ride, I had actually a message from my mom to call her. So like, I thought I was in control. I was like, I'm gonna text him, talk to him, send him this, we're gonna chat, we're gonna blah blah blah, and like meanwhile he had just passed away, and like that's a horribly morbid example probably, but it shows that we don't have control. You know, other instances in my life, pretty much all of my trauma, like, as sadly we can relate, because that's what trauma is, but like sexual assault, I had no control over that. Like, not really something I could have planned for, or like my ego could have had control over. When I had my car accident was a perfect example of surrender. There we go. Because I hit black ice, you know, I had like time literally froze. I had all the time in the world to try and correct and like logically piece together what could happen, and like don't overreact and overcompensate and flip that way, you know. I had all this time to process it. Time really does slow down when we're in those situations. But eventually, as I wasn't getting any control over myself, it was like a Jesus take the wheel moment. I just like had so much peace and calm, and I just surrendered, and I just kind of like held the wheel really loosely, and I went off into the ditch and flipped and rolled a bunch of times. But it was like this moment of like, I really have no control. And I think this is what's so important to apply in our day-to-day lives, because we don't need huge moments of trauma to teach us that. And like, ideally, hopefully we don't all have those, right? You can start to shift these things already by looking at, and that's, wow, what a tangent. That's what the whole COVID situation is bringing about, where people are realizing, okay, I didn't have all this control around my job, or I didn't have all this control around when we'd be going back, like all of these different things that we're seeing, like we don't have that much control over. So the more we stress about them, and the more we cling and like try to control it, try to force it, the more suffering we cause, because the more stressed we're going to be, the more we're fighting reality. So you're fighting reality when you're trying to control it. This is becoming a messy board. So control equals fighting reality, because you're trying to make it happen the way your mind wants it to happen, versus just saying, hey, this is what's happening right now. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to show up? How am I going to adapt? What parts can I control? What action can I take today to still be getting towards where it is I want to go? So when we look at this and we look at the ego mind, which is like just trying to keep us in this place of force, make it happen our way, and then we go into, okay, who's actually smarter? Who's smarter, you guys? Your mind or God, source, universe? I'll just write it that way. This is something that I bring myself back to all the time, and I'm not a religious person, and it's only been recently that I actually use the word God. I always used to just use universe, but anyway, who is smarter? Your mind that is trying to control, trying to make everything happen in these logical steps, right? Like, this is going to happen first, then I'll do this, then I'll go here, then that'll happen, and then we'll get to this place, then da 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 da. That's our logical mind trying to create that ladder of how we're going to get from A to B. But it's limited. Our minds are limited. They're focused and living from past experiences. They actually they're based on old perceptions, right? And old limiting beliefs, all of these kinds of things around what's possible. So it's keeping you in a limited way of getting from A to B. Whereas if you go and you're like, you know what, whatever higher power, however you want to call it, I believe that God, source, universe is actually like maybe just a tiny bit. It's just a little bit smarter than I am. I'm just gonna trust. I'm gonna stop trying to control from my minuscule little being, and I'm just going to trust that, like, God knows what's better for me. And this is really contradictory, because I do personally believe that, like, we all are God. We all are, and we all have so much infinite power to tap into and create from and manifest from. But you don't have that power from the ego. That's the thing, right? You have that power from your source, from God, not from, like, your limited perception of what you think is true and how you think it should all happen. That's the truth, right? That's how it works. So if you're able to lean back and surrender, check out this video here, all about surrender. I will post the link down below. It's going to help you so much with stepping back, leaning back, trusting. And when we look at this kind of stuff, it's really about, like, okay, what's actually going to make me feel better? And ultimately, that's, like, one of the most important things, is to see what's going to make you feel better, because you're probably not feeling good when you're living from this place. When you're clinging, you're trying to force, you're trying to control, right? I knew that word was here somewhere. When you're trying to control the outcome, and you're trying to control the way everything unfolds, and you're trying to control the job or the promotion or your soulmate or new friends or more money in the bank, when you're trying to control, you're coming to it from a place of desperation, from lack, from not having enough, and trying to force and push it the way you think it should be. So that's all very limited, and it keeps you in a place where you're just going to continue to struggle and perpetuate those same feelings and emotions. And it creates, like I said, it creates that stress, it creates that insecurity, that self-doubt. And a lot of times it creates a victim mindset, because the ego is so me focused. It's keeping you feeling like there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or why me? Why am I not getting this? I deserve it. You know, that's ego driven. Whereas if you lean back and you trust that, like, God and the universe is infinitely more intelligent than you are, and infinitely more like abundant, prosperous, filled with opportunities, you know, like open. There are a million different ways that more money could come your way. There are a million different ways that you could attract a better job. You don't know whether it's going to come from your current job, whether it's going to come from a friend you go for coffee with tomorrow, whether it's going to come from, like, an old job reaching back out to you and asking you to come back, or whether it's going to come from, like, this call to walk in this certain building and you end up meeting someone who's hiring exactly what you are. Like, you don't know those things, but God and the universe does. So letting go of the control of what you think is best for you, and trusting that what is actually best for you and meant for you will come your way. So comment down below, I am letting go of control. I am letting go of control. I am letting go of force. I'm letting go of making it difficult. I don't want to keep making it difficult. Ultimately, this is what helped everything for me, was just finally being like, frick, I'm making it so much harder and it's not fun. So why am I going to continue to stay in this cycle and continue to push this way when it's not enjoyable for me? Like, there's zero joy, zero fun from being in this stressed out, forceful place. So I'm not able to accomplish as much. I don't feel as good. I don't feel motivated or grateful or excited. So I need to just let go. And that's when the magic comes. That's when all the miracles show up. So when you surrender and create a healthy detachment, okay? So this is, ooh, there goes the dog. Hey. There's a cat outside. I don't know if you can hear that, so I apologize if you can't. And I apologize if you can. So you want to surrender and create healthy detachment. So here's the thing, right? This keeps you in force, this keeps you clinging and really tightly wound and like, ooh, I want it. It needs to happen this way. Healthy detachment is one of the best things when it comes to mindfulness and when it comes to understanding your mind. So detaching from the outcome, detaching from what you think is best, detaching from all the ways in which you think things are supposed to happen. So a healthy detachment comes from realizing that there's so much more than just your mind and your beliefs and what you think is normal. Okay, there goes the dog. It's letting go of what you think it has to be and creating this understanding that like you are not your beliefs. So that's this separation here, right? Where it's like, hey, here's my mind, I don't know, and here's all my thoughts and like my need to control. Let's put that in there. So this is like your need to control, and you're like stepping back. You're like, I'm gonna detach from this because my need to control and all the stories I'm telling and all the things I think I have to do and all this force energy is actually maybe not making me feel that good. It's not actually helping. So let me like detach for a second and realize that this is not me. You know, like stepping back to see that you are the spiritual being that is behind all of this. You are not your mind. You don't have to think that your mind is God. Your mind is not God. God is God. Like your mind does not know what's actually best for it. It thinks it does. It tells that story and it wants you to believe it, and it sends signals to your body to make you think that it's right. But it's all about stepping back, creating that distance so that you can actually see things more clearly. Now, one of the biggest things that I do before finishing this video to help with this is all about reprogramming your mind and reprogramming the typical ways you think and the typical pathways and patterns. Because the thing about our mind is that the more we do something, the more repetition, the stronger that becomes. So the more you think about force and hustle, the more you focus on control, the more you have these beliefs that like you have to make it happen, the more stuck you stay in living that way. And the more, it's a rhyme, the more you stay stuck in that place and in that pattern and in those beliefs and in those energy. So when you reprogram your mind, and I've got an amazing free mindset training you can check out in the links down below. It's going to teach you my exact 3-step process to do that and why this process is the best possible process you can use, because it takes you through the steps exactly in order you need to do it to get the results. You can't just like so many people try to do just step 2 or 3. It doesn't work. Okay, you have to have the right order, the right system in place to make these shifts actually deeply ingrain and reprogram your subconscious on that deep level. But in terms of reprogramming your mind and understanding that like these are just beliefs, this is just a story, this is not the be all end all, this is not the truth. It doesn't have to be the truth. I can choose a new story. I can choose to step back, lean back, trust, let go of control. And I've been focusing extra hard on this the last few months of literally being in a state of surrender, and I'm doing a little bit of a surrender experiment, which I'm going to be writing a book about, and I'm so excited. That's one of my exciting things I've been manifesting, but is like stepping back and surrendering and watching how many doors open up that I wouldn't have seen if I was still trying to force. And that's the magic, because when you're forcing, you're coming from a limited, narrow-minded perspective of what you think you should do, what you think it has to be. Whereas when you lean back and you trust that, you know what, God in the universe is actually 1,000 times smarter, probably 1,000,000. It's like infinitely times more smarter than I am, and infinitely more smart, as I mess up my English language talking about my intelligence. So the universe is infinitely more intelligent than I am, and when I accept that and I just surrender and I go, hey, I'm gonna follow the impulses, I'm still gonna do the work, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do the things that feel good, but I'm letting go of control because it doesn't feel good for me, it stresses me out, makes me anxious, and I think you're gonna actually show me the way. I think you actually know the path a lot better than I do, and I really truly believe certain things are destined for me, so I know that they're gonna happen, in their right time, and I can lean back and trust. And these things have manifested way faster because I've done that, because I've surrendered and stepped back. So if you're looking for support with this, like I said, make sure you check out the free mindset training down below where I share my exact process with you guys. And if you're interested in working together privately, make sure you book the call, book a discovery call there on that link, and we can chat and see if I can support you in breaking free from your limiting beliefs, your limiting mind, and start creating the life of your dreams. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure you check out some of these other videos here. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to thumbs up, subscribe, and share, and I will see you on the next video.